The age-old problem with Madden has always been finding the right difficulty to play on. I always say All Pro is too easy, whereas All Madden is too cheesy. And if you leave everything set to default, the same problem applies to College Football 25. If you play on Heisman, the CPU will basically never let you win. But if you play on All-American, the CPU will never let you lose. But fortunately, we don't have to play with everything set to default. There's a range of settings and sliders that we can adjust to get the game playing how we want. So in this video, we'll be going over how to adjust some of those settings to get the game playing a bit more realistically and a bit more fairly. So let's get into it. Now, before we get into the sliders themselves, a couple of things to note. The first is that we're going to be using Heisman difficulty for this particular slider set. I do have a set of sliders available for All-American, if that's more your speed, and those sliders can be found in my complete guide to setting up a realistic Dynasty. The second thing to note is that we're only going to be going over gameplay sliders and penalty sliders today. If you want to find out more about the other settings that you need to adjust, the other sliders that you want to modify, things like auto subs, things like XP sliders, go and check out that complete guide video. I go over every single setting and slider in that video. Those things like XP sliders, auto subs are all going to be the same whether you're playing on All-American or on Heisman. So I'm not going to repeat them again here today. If you do want to play on Heisman, go back and watch the complete guide video. Just plug in these Heisman gameplay and penalty sliders instead of the ones in that prior video. If you want to play on All-American, go watch that video instead of this one. And the final thing to note is that these sliders are designed to try and create the most realistic experience possible on College Football 25. I feel like that's what most people are looking for when they search out a slider set. So that's what we're going to try and create on the field. However, no matter how close you try and get to real life, and I feel like these sliders get pretty close, there are still going to be some wonky animations. There are still going to be the occasional stat line that just looks completely out of whack. You're never going to find a slider set that completely replicates exactly what college football is like on a week in, week out, game in, game out basis. I feel like these do a pretty decent job of that though. Now, with that being said, let's get into the sliders themselves. Now, I usually advise people adjust the sliders in the game settings and then import them into your Dynasty later on. So as I said, you do want Heisman difficulty as the skill level for this one, and you will want to adjust some of the penalty sliders. Some of these are the same as the All-American set from the complete guide video. Some of them are slightly different. So if you did watch that video, but you want to upgrade to Heisman difficulty, make sure you adjust these penalty sliders. So offside you want set at 70. False start you want set at 75, holding at 50, face mask at 25, blocking the back you want at 50, roughing the passer at 50, DPI you want down at 25. This is a big difference from the complete guide set, and I believe the rest is all the same as in that prior video. Penalty sliders don't just adjust the frequency with which penalties are called, they do adjust the interactions between players on the field. Defensive pass interference, for example, will adjust the way that your DBs interact with wide receivers, how closely they cover them down the field, how aggressively they drive on balls when they are thrown. Roughing the passer is another big one. This does affect how aggressively a defensive end will pursue a quarterback. Offensive holding the same. This will adjust how aggressive offensive linemen are in holding their blocks against defensive linemen. And a lot of people have complained about the pass blocking on this particular game. A lot of that is going to come down to the offensive holding slider rather than the pass blocking slider in the actual skill menu. However, moving over to the skill menu, if you watch the complete guide video, you'll notice a lot of big differences here in terms of the slider values. So firstly, we have QB accuracy at 55 for the user, 75 pass blocking with 50 wide receiver catching. Run blocking is at 60, ball security is at 25, and then we've got a big increase on the pass defense sliders in particular, 100 for reaction time and for pass coverage, whereas interceptions is at 35. Tackling is all the way up at 75, and this is another slider that doesn't only do what it says on the tin. It doesn't only, or really it barely adjusts how good your defenders are actually tackling. More so, this slider adjusts things like pursuit angles, run fits, and that kind of thing. That's another thing that a lot of people have complained about with this game out of the box, that the pursuit angles for defenders are all over the place. Raising the tackling slider massively improves that. And then finally, the special team sliders are the same as in the complete guide set. 50 field goal power, but 45 accuracy, a slight bump on punt power. Accuracy for punts and kickoff power remain at 50. And moving over to the CPU skill sliders, again, you're going to see a lot of differences here from the complete guide All-American set. You're going to see a lot of extreme values as well. QB accuracy, for example, is all the way down at 0. Don't worry, quarterbacks can still throw the ball. They can still throw the ball accurately, probably still a little bit too accurately, even on 0. However, it does bring the completion percentage down significantly to a more reasonable place. Pass blocking down at 25 should help with that as well. Helps the pass rush get in a little bit quicker, forces quicker throws, forces under pressure throws. So again, that's going to adjust the CPU quarterback's accuracy. Wide receiver catching is also going to obviously affect that completion rate as well. Wide receivers are going to be dropping the ball a little bit more often. All of those things combine to bring that completion rate down from the 80 to 90% range that you often see on Heisman down to 60, 70%. I will be putting some gameplay at the end of this particular video. I just played a game against Illinois with Duke. I'm about to play one against Tulane. I'm not sure which game I'll put at the end of this video yet, but I just played Illinois, and in the first half, the CPU QB, I think, had 21% completion rate, something like that. Now, that's obviously extremely low, but that's not going to be the norm. QBs will still be able to complete passes, but you will, if you play defense well, be able to get the upper hand on a not so talented QB. Run blocking for the CPU is at 50, ball security at 20, reaction time and pass coverage the exact opposite from the player skill. They're all the way down at 0. Again, defenders can still cover your receivers downfield. Frustratingly so, it is still difficult for your receivers to get open down the field and at times underneath simultaneously somehow. So extreme value, I know, 0 and 0, but on Heisman difficulty, the CPU is still more than capable even at these low values. Interceptions at 20, tackling at 45, and then there are some adjustments to the special team sliders for the CPU as well. So field goal power and accuracy have both been lowered, power to 45, accuracy to 40. I was just seeing the CPU hit from 50 plus way too often. That rarely happens in the NFL. College is a whole nother ball game. College kickers should not be hitting from 50 plus on the regular. In a recent game, an opposing kicker absolutely drilled it from, I believe, 58 yards. No issue with distance, straight through the middle. 45 and 40 seems to be a good balance. 55 for pump power, 50 accuracy, 50 kickoff power. Now, the last thing to mention about this particular set before I throw on some gameplay highlights and leave you to it is the player speed parity scale slider. I go over this in far more detail in that complete guide All-American set that I put out previously. So go check out that video if you do want to hear a bit more in-depth discussion about this particular slider, but we have it set at 0. Basically, what this means is that the disparity between the quickest and the slowest players on the field will be maximized. So if you have a 99 speed receiver, for example, they will feel most like a 99 speed receiver. You will most see how quick that player is with this slider set to 0. Set at 100, that will reduce the disparity between the quickest and slowest players. There won't be as much distinction between your 99 speed receiver and the other players on the field. So again, if you want more in-depth discussion and you want me to explain exactly what this slider does, go check out the other video. If you're happy enough with that as an explanation, set this at 0, plug those sliders in. But that'll do it for this one. Again, if you want XP sliders, if you want auto sub sliders, if you want the defensive assist settings and all of those kinds of things explained, check out the complete guide video. If you've seen the complete guide video, but you want more of a challenge, plug these sliders in, leave all the other settings from that previous video, the same. Now that I have put out a version 1 for both All-American and Heisman on College Football 25, I'm going to turn my attention to Madden 25. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video while you're at it, and keep an eye out for some realistic slider sets for Madden 25 coming up shortly too. So I hope to see you in those. For now, I will leave you some gameplay of these sliders in action, either week 2 at Illinois or week 3 at Tulane. Take it easy.